Alright, so let's move ahead with our next step, in which we'll try to create a user interface for our application. Which application? The text generation application and image describing application. So to create the UI, we'll make use of one of the Python package called Streamlit. I already created a detailed tutorial video in the Streamlit that we can easily explore. So let's move ahead to understand how can we use Streamlit to create a UI using which user can interact. Later on, I'd also tell you how can we how can we upload that UI, or how can we make that UI globally available for everyone through a cloud service. So to create this, we'll make use of a coding interface, or you can say coding environment, which is called VS Code. We'll make use of this VS Code for creating our UI using Python programming language. For that, first of all, I click on open folder. So when I click on open folder, it will help us in defining, or you can say assigning a project folder. There will be a project folder in which our whole project will exist, right? So I'll create my project folder in my D drive. All right, so you can see this is a folder that we are going to use where our project will be stored, right? So same folder I accessed in my VS Code GenAI app, right? So here I'll create my new file, and file name I can give over here. Let's say text gen app.py. All right, so this is going to be our complete full-fledged application using which we can generate the text, right? So for that, I need to import Streamlit, okay, as st. Now this is a Python package that should be there in your system, right? If it is not there, you have to install it. Now how can you install it? To install this thing, you can go to your command prompt, right, and type over there pip install Streamlit. In my system, most probably it is already there, so it will show requirement already satisfied. In your case, you may have to install it. You can say what is it showing? Requirement already satisfied. That means this guy is already there, right? Next, we have to import one more library or package, that is your generative AI by Google. Okay, Streamlit for creating the UI, generative AI for assigning the API and all. So I'll do what? Import Google dot generative AI as GenAI. Now again, this particular library should also be there in your system. If it is not there, you have to install it. Now how can you install it? Already I told you in last series or the last application, you can easily install it by using pip install generative AI, right? So here you have to just give the command. Let me show you. Pip install this thing, Google Generative AI. So when I'll give this instruction in my command prompt, it will install the required thing. It is also there in my system showing requirement already satisfied. So these two are the important dependency that should be there. Then only you can do the things, right? Next, I have to configure my API. So for configuring my API, configure API. What I need to use over here GenAI.configure. Okay, and then I have to define the API key over here, API underscore key. So whatever the API key that I had used earlier, same API key I'll use here, right? So I'll just copy my API key and paste it over here. Let me just allow 1 second so that I can copy and paste. Now my API key is created or configured. Next, I have to create Gemini model instance, right? Gemini model instance. All right. Now what this Gemini model instance? Here we'll define the type of model that we want to use. So model will be equals to what? The way we did it in the last example, like this, like model is equal to, I'll show you. See here, model is equal to this thing, right? So same thing we have to use, right? So I'll copy this entity and we'll paste it over here, right? Okay, so I selected my model. That means Gemini 2.2 Flash. Thereafter, we have to create our Streamlit user interface. So Streamlit user interface. So for creating the Streamlit user interface, first of all, we'll define over here the page, right? So I'll do what? Set st.set page config. Here we can define the page title. Okay, so page title. Okay, here we can do what? Our generative text app powered by Gemini. All right, done. Next, we'll add the title over here, st.title. Okay, that was a page title, and here we'll use the title of my web page. So we can just give it a things, any title that can be like what do you want to know? Okay, that's it. So you have this thing. Now I will add over here one markdown. Okay, that means a kind of information that I want to give to the user, right? So generate, or you can say tell us what information do you want. I will provide you I will provide you the details. Okay, something like this. I had just given it. Okay, something random. It can be more innovative in this case. Now, when I will run this program, okay, let's save this program. So this program is saved. Now, how to run this program? To run this program, we need to go to same location where my files are saved. So where is it saved? It is saved over here. All right, you can see. Right at this location, I will run command prompt. So I'll type command prompt in the address bar, and then I will run it. Right, when I'll run the command prompt, I can see the command prompt is running over here. Now, how to execute my application? Simple. I have to type streamlit run and the file name. Okay, what is the file name that we had given? Text gen app, right? So text underscore gen underscore app.py. Let's run it. So when I'll execute it, it will run my application in my web browser. So I'll switch to my web browser. You can see this is what you can see. We are getting over everything. This is our page title, our generative text or something. Okay, this one, if you see here, I have a page title. Okay, here I have the title of my application, and here it is a markdown. Okay, now we want a kind of a field where user can enter something, right? So for that, we will modify our code once again. Let's get back to the coding. And here I'll define the prompt input field, right? So prompt input, where user can just give some of the prompt, isn't it? So for that, prompt underscore input is equals to, I want input text, right? So st dot text area or text input. Text area will give you the larger area. Text input will be a single line input. Okay, so here I'll say some of the input that I want. Okay, what provide your prompt here. Okay, let's say provide your prompt here, right? And then I'll give value is equals to blank. Okay, I just want it to be, that means after the prompt entered, it can be blank, right? So let's save this thing and again go back and check our user interface. Okay, so this is your user interface. I'll refresh it. So when I refresh it, you can see what we have. So provide your prompt here, right? So here I have to give the prompt. Let me give the prompt. Give me some really cool startup idea for 2025, right? So as of now, it will do nothing, right? Because as of now, it's just a user interface. We want to use it for generating something. If I want to use it for generating something, what we need? We need over here the button, or you can say we have to use over here the Gemini, right? As of now, we have not used anything like Gemini. So for that, we'll create a button, generate button. Okay, like when someone will click on the button, it will generate the output. So st.button. Okay, here I'll say generate. Genei. So that's it, right? Now I'll save this thing and I'll see whether my button is appeared or not. So I'll go back to my user interface and see, yeah, this is a button created, right? Next, I have to make sure whenever the button clicked, something should happen, something should generate it. So I'll give a if condition. If this is button is clicked, right? So I'll say over here what with st.spinner. Okay, so a spinner will do what? That means when the process will go on, there will be a spinner that will run, right? And when the spinner will run, there will be a message that will be appear that is called thinking. Okay, that is a processing time. So that users should know that there is some processing going on, isn't it? Okay, so it's like you give the prompt and there is a spinner going on, there is a spinner that will run and it will show the message, it is thinking. And thereafter, prompt will be equals to what? Whatever the prompt that you entered over here, right? So prompt input dot strip. So it will just remove any extra spaces if it is there, right? So that is how the prompt will be defined. And thereafter we can try for this thing, that is try and accept, so that in case if there is any error, that can be handled gracefully. Okay, so here I'll write in the try section, response is equals to what? Model dot generate content, right? This is what we had used, and here we'll just feed the prompt. Okay, so this will generate the content, isn't it? Whatever the prompt that we have, that will, based on that, it will generate the content. And thereafter, here it will give me st.write. Okay, what it will write? The response.text. Okay, response.text. Okay, and in case there is an exception, that will be handled gracefully, and it can show me accept exception as err and then st.error. Okay, and then an error occurred. Okay, what error occurred? That we can show it like this, err, and this can be the formatted text. All right, so this thing is done, I guess. So let's try to refresh our web page and see the things in action, isn't it? So I'll go here, I'll just refresh this guy. Okay, and it is showing me some error over here. You can see, right? That means something I'm missing, right? So I'll get back to my code, and what is missing? This semicolon is missing, or sorry, this colon is missing. So I'll again save my file. Okay, and saving the file again, I'll go get back to my app. Okay, I'll refresh this guy. Okay, and then it is asking, what do you want to know? Okay, so let's say, tell me some really cool startup idea. Okay, for 2025. All right, so I'll ask it to generate, and this is how it is thinking something, right? So let it be processed, and thereafter we'll see the result over here in few minutes, right? Here the output is not as we are expecting, so let's check the things, like why are we not getting the output as it is expected. We'll get back here and we'll check. See what happened here. We just passed it within the quotes, right? This quote is not required, isn't it? Because if I pass it within the quote, this will be a static string, isn't it? So I'll modify this code, get back to our application once again, right? And then again I'll refresh it. Meanwhile, I'll just copy this thing so that I don't have to write once again. All right, I'll paste it over here. Okay, and then I'll do what? I'll again generate the text. So let's see, it will take few seconds to generate and give us the output. All right, so we get the output over here. So this is our own application kind of thing, which can be used and we can deploy it over the cloud as well. Okay, in our website, we can create a website and we can deploy. How to deploy, I'll tell you that process next. But yeah, let me ask it something else. Right, really interesting this, okay, article on climate change. Okay, so let's see the output. Okay, so if you see, climate change is getting hot in here and not in good way. So okay, let's talk about climate change. You can see we get it. So this is what it's like. It is application powered by Gemini, but it's our own application, isn't it? And that's working really cool, right? So that's working fine. Okay, now let's see how can we deploy it on a cloud service, right? That is going to be really interesting application that we are going to deploy over the cloud service, because right now it is using what? It is using our local server. Okay, you can see localhost 8501. This is using our local server. I want it to be accessible from any part of the world. So if I want it to be accessible from any part of the world, I need to deploy it on a cloud. So next step is deployment of this application over the cloud, right? So let's get started. Now see, if I want it to deploy it over a cloud service, right? So that cloud service should have few files, few dependencies already stored, isn't it? Already installed, right? Like for example, right now I'm using my own local system. So in my local system, I had installed Streamlit, generative AI, these kind of things. So suppose if I'm planning to use a cloud service, right? Suppose there is a cloud service I'm planning to use. It can be anything like Render, it can be AWS, it can be Google Cloud, anything. Okay, so that particular service should know, right? Whatever the instance I am creating for deployment of my application, that instance should know that this application requires Streamlit. This application requires Google Generative AI. Okay, without these two things, this application can't run, right? So first, I need to create a file called requirements txt. Okay, and using this file, the required dependencies will first get installed in my cloud service or in my cloud instance, right? So once all the dependencies get installed in my cloud instance, thereafter this application can run smoothly over there, isn't it? So let's try to create a file over here, and the file name I'll give as your requirements.txt. All right. So first I'll create requirements. Spelling should be correct because later on the same spelling we have to use. So requirements is requirements.txt. Right. And in this requirements.txt, what I write, I'll write whatever that I required. What I required is Streamlit. So I'll just write over here Streamlit. Okay. And next, what I required Google Generative AI. So I'll copy this thing. What I did, pip install Google Generative AI, right? So Google Generative AI, right? So this is our requirement file that is being created. All right. Next, what we need to do? Next, we had used over here the API key, right? Now, when we are using API key, this API key I can't keep in my file as it is, isn't it? Because we are going for cloud deployment. That is a security concern, right? If I keep the API key as it is, it will be a security concern, and later on anyone can read my API and there can be the misuse of API, right? So what we do, we'll define over here something called Gen AI API and key, right? And later on we will create a we will create an environmental variable with this name, and in that environmental variable we will do what? We will try to store this particular whatever the API key that we have, so that my API key will not be visible to everyone. Okay, it will be stored secretly and securely in the environmental variable, right? So that's what we are going to do. So let's go ahead with the deployment part. Now, what service shall we use for deployment? See, there is very popular service that we can use for the deployment, and that is called what? Render. Okay, we'll use the Render cloud service for our application deployment, cloud application platform, right? So when we are planning to use Render, so here we'll click on get started for free. Now when we click on get started for free, I can create an app over here, right? But when I want to create an app, it will ask me what the project name or something. Now it is saying upgrade to professional to get multiple projects. Okay, that means as it is a free service, so I can create one app at a time. That means I have to delete my existing app, then only I can create a new app, right? So let me delete my existing app and thereafter I'll create a. So how to delete? I can click on this app. Okay, this is my app, right? I'll click here and go to settings, and I scroll down and here I'll delete it, right? So I have to give this particular line of code over here to delete my web service. Now there is no web service. Now I have to click on create new service. So I have to create a web service. So I'll click on new web service. Now when I click on web service, it will ask me to add my Git repository. That means it will fetch the details of my application from Git, right? So I have to access it from the Git, right? So here, let's say I have to go to this place, and from here I have to access it. That means I need to create a repository first in my Git, right? So let's try to create a repository first in my Git, and thereafter we will upload our code files, right? So I'll go to repository, and here I'll create a new repository. So let's give it a name, or you can say GenAI, Gen Text Generation App. Okay, this is what done, right? And I'll create a repository. Once it is created, I will upload the file that we have created. Okay, the files that we created, two files are there that we created, right? Requirements.txt and textgenapp.py. So these two files will be uploaded to my Git repository, right? So once it is uploaded, we'll connect it to the Render. So let it be uploaded. Now it is uploaded. Now we can connect it to Render. The name is what? Text Generation App. Let's get back to the Render, right? And here I'll connect it, right? So credentials, this one, okay, and I have to select that repository that I want, right? So to select the repository, let's see what I can do. I can click here. So when I click there, it is just selecting my repository that I first used. Here I can click on edit, right? And here I need to give the location. How can I give the location? I'll get back to my GitHub, right? And here I have a repository that is just created, Text Generation App. Okay, I'll click here, and from here I can copy this URL. All right, once I copy this URL, thereafter I'll get back to Render, okay, and paste it over here. Right now it is saying you don't have access to this one. I can also access to public repository. So click on public repository and click on connect. So now let it be connected. So my app name is what? Text Generation App, right? It is saying create a new project to add this. So I can create a new project over here. Project name I can give what? Text Generation. All right, and then I'll click on create project. All right, language is Python 3. This is fine, this is fine, right? There are root directory. I can keep this one src pip install r requirement.txt. That means it will first install these, whatever the dependencies I have listed, into the requirements file. It will first install into my cloud interface. A startup command. What startup command do we have? So see, when we were running the Streamlit in our local system, what a startup command we had given? We had given over there, what you can see, Streamlit run, right? This is what we had given. Streamlit run, this one. Okay, so same startup command we have to give it over here, right? Streamlit. I'll just copy this thing. I'll go over here and paste it over here. Streamlit run, and the file name. What is my file name? Let's check the file name that we have, that we uploaded to the Git, isn't it? So the file name that we have over here, let's check, is textgen app.py, the same file name that we have to give. So I guess the same file name we had already given, right? And then we have to give over here one more thing that is called server, okay, dot port, this port, so that it can access a port to run my program. Thereafter, I'll select this free one, okay? And then there's an environmental variable. This is what I was talking to you. When we created the program, okay, if you see over here, we had not mentioned any API key. Why? For security reason. So this thing is my environmental variable. I'll copy this thing and thereafter I will paste it over here. Okay, the same thing, right? And the value of this thing will be what? Our API key, whatever the API key that we have. So API key I can pick from here, isn't it? Because same API key I'm using for the security reason. All right, now everything is set. Now I'll click on deploy web services. So if I click here, it will do what? It will first install all the dependencies that I have listed down. You can see the progress over here. Very soon the progress will start, and thereafter it will tell us that my application is running. So here it just started the progress and it will try to install pip install requirements.txt. So it just installed all the dependencies over here, right? And thereafter my application will start running. Once it will start running, anyone can use this particular thing around the globe to access my application. If it is free, so it will run for a few minutes and thereafter it will automatically stops running. To keep it running, I have to continuously use it, right? Then only it will keep it running. If suppose 1 or 2 minutes no one is using it, application will stop running. Again, I have to restart the server, right? If it is paid one, right, because you had seen we are using the free service, if it is paid one, it can run permanently. We can also integrate this thing into our own website that I'll show you later on. But as of now, let's see, once everything will install, how my application will run over the cloud. So let it be installed and start running our application. We have to wait for a few minutes. So if you see, my service is now live. So when our service is live, we need to do what? We need to click here. This is our web URL through which we can access our application. And if I share this URL with anyone, so anyone can access my application. It is like, website is having web address. So this is the web address of my app, which can be accessible globally because my application is deployed on the server. So when I click it, I'll get the things app over here. So let's see if it is running smoothly or we are getting some error. If it will run smoothly, that means everything we did correct. If we are getting some error, that means we have to fix some of the errors that we have. So let's see what happened. Now I'll ask it to generate something. Okay, now if you say this is not running on localhost, okay, it is using a web address, right? Now I'll provide a prompt. So what prompt shall I provide? Tell me something about tourist place in India. Okay, so let's see. When I click on generate, it is showing us an error. Now this is really interesting. What is the error? API key not valid. But we had given the API key valid API key. So let's check our program. Okay. So when I open up the program over here, right? Here I had given Gen API key, and we had also created the environmental variable, if you remember, right? Then what's the problem? So here, purposely, I had made this mistake, okay, so that I can let you know what is the correct way of defining a API key if you are going to if you're going to declare the API key in the environment variable. So here I'll edit this file and I will add few more things. I'll add one library called OS. So import OS. Now using this OS, we will define our API key. That means I'll write over here API key is equals to OS dot get environment. Okay, EN. What is this? See, OS is a library which is used to access the directory of your system. Here we are going to read the environmental variable. Okay, os.get environment. And which environmental variable I have to read? I have to read this guy. So this thing will not be mentioned over here. Okay, it will be mentioned over here. Right? And here what I have to mention? I have to mention this variable. Okay, now my code is ready to read the API key from the environment variable and configure GenAI. Okay, so I made the change directly over here in Git. I'll commit the change. So change committed. Okay, and based on this new updated change, what I do, I will now again redeploy my application. So for that, I will get back to my this thing and I'll again try. Let's see if it can work as I made the changes. So here I click it. Okay, and if it will work, it's good. Otherwise we have to redeploy it, right? So let's see. Tell me something about SpaceX. Okay, so let's see. Not working. That means I have to redeploy the things, right? So for that, what I do, I'll go back to my application. This is what we have deployed. As we have deployed this thing, first of all, to avoid any sort of confusion, I will remove this one. Click here. I'll go to settings. Okay, and I'll delete this web service. All right. Okay. So here it is being deleted. I'll create a new web service. Okay, here I have to give the URL. So I'll go here. I'll copy this URL from here. Text generation app. Okay. Here this is the URL that I copy. I'll paste it over here. Public repository, connect. Okay, everything is cool. Only I have to select our. Here I have to give the startup command. What is startup command shall I give? I have to give Streamlit run text gen API app.py. What is text gen app? This is the app. Okay, this is text gen app. Okay, so Streamlit run text gen app.py. Free. And then here I define the environmental variable. Which variable? The same variable that we have defined here. Right? This one. Right? Okay. So I'll put it over here. Okay, and what is the value of this thing? The API key that you have generated from AI Studio Google, right? Done. Okay, and now I'll deploy, and now you see the magic. Everything will run smoothly. So that the purpose over here is to make you aware with the things. How should we define a API key if we know that our API key is going to be fetched from the environment variables, right? So let's wait for a few minutes. It will install the things and we'll get the result. Okay. So now my build is successful and service is live. Okay. Now again, let's click here and check what happens. So you can see you are getting 502. So don't worry about it. Whenever you are getting 502, this is not a problem. It is just your service gone live just now. So it may take a few seconds to show you the actual service. Right. So now it is live. Right. It is running. So we can wait for a few more seconds for our front end application. Okay. Now let me ask it something. Okay. What can be the best startup idea for year 2025 in India? Okay, let's see. So now we have defined our API key and everything through environmental variables, right? Now, by looking at this program, no one can know that what is my API key, okay? Because I am deploying it, so that thing is very much important. So now if you see, okay, let's brainstorm something that had given me a, like, these are the startup idea that it had generated and suggested me. You can work on it and you can make some business also. All right. Now what we do, we will go ahead and we'll try to modify the this application, this cloud application for image description, right? That means we can upload the image and this service can just explain the image for me, isn't it? That is what we want right now. Okay, so for doing it, what we do again, we'll get back to our development environment right here, and this is our GenAI app for the text generation. Now I'll create a new app. So for our what? For our image description, right? So I'll click here and we'll just have the open folder, and I will create a new folder, right? So let's say I'll create same way I can create a new folder in my D drive, E drive, wherever you want to create a new folder, you can create it, right? Let's say I'm creating a new folder, Gen image, GenAI image description. GenAI image description. Okay. So what I did, I had created a new folder. I'll show you that folder. Uh, Here is the folder. Just allow me for a minute. Okay. So here is a folder that I created, right? And in this folder, I will create all my project, and then I will publish the content of this folder to the Git, and then I'll use it for the application. So let's say I'll go here once again. So what we require two files. One that is called requirements.txt. You know why requirements is required? To have all the requirements listed. Second, I required over here what? The actual app, right? So I can give it a name like app.py. All right. Now let's try to write the program. Okay. So what program will write over here? It's import Streamlit as st, the first thing. Second thing, I need to work with the image, so I need a library which can access the image. So from PIL import image. All right. Thereafter import Google dot generative AI as GenAI for configuring the API. Import input output. Okay, for reading the image and all. Next, what we need to configure the API over here. So how can we configure the API? We can use the same process that we used already for 2-3 times. I have to use over here google.configure, genai.configure, isn't it? And then the API key. Then thereafter, I have to set the page title and everything that we did earlier, isn't it? So for setting up the page title, what we do, I'll just I can copy and paste the code from the previous code file, isn't it? So just allow me for a minute. I'll just copy and paste the code from the previous code file. Okay. So this is for the Streamlit. So set page config. Okay, the page title. So it can be like I can give it a name, image description with Gemini. All right. Then st.title. What do you want to, or you can say I can give it a things like describe an image using Gemini. Okay. Thereafter, I'll give the markdown to let the user know what to do. Upload an image and get detailed description generated by Gemini. All right. Thereafter, we need a file uploader over here, right? So we can see if, or you can say upload file, right? So upload. First I have to upload, and thereafter I have to click on that particular button, right? So uploaded file. that can be equals to st.fileUploader. Okay, this is a Streamlit file uploader to upload a file. I'll say what, choose an image. Okay, and then I can just define the type of the image that can be used over here. Let's say I have to use JPG and PNG and what other type generally we have? JPEG, right? So type is equal to JPG. Okay, thereafter JPEG, thereafter PNG. Okay, so these are the files that we required. Now we'll say that, okay, fine. Let's check this how it is working, right? So locally we will check, and later on we'll go for the cloud deployment. Both will do. So for locally, to check it locally, we'll go to the location where my files exist, right? So my files are existing at a location. Let me just open up that particular location so that I can run it from there, isn't it? So my file is actually existing over here. So I'll run the command prompt here. Okay, and run streamlit run app.py. Okay, and then I'll check if it is running or not. Okay, that's good, looking good. So I can browse the file over here. It's actually running, if you see, isn't it? So I can browse the file over here and I can select any image from my system, isn't it? Only thing, once image is selected, I want a description of this image. All right. So for that, I have to write the complete script now. Okay. So I'll get back to my coding interface. Okay. And here we will write if uploaded file. That means file is uploaded. Okay. First check if the file is uploaded. Is not none. Okay, if it is not none, then do what? Then we'll have some logic which can try to describe it. Okay, and accept exception as e, right? st.error what? F an error occurred, and I can give it the things like this is my error. So in the try section, we'll write over here. First, I have to load the image, open the image. Then I have to display the image. Then I have to convert the image into the bytes, into the byte form. And then the model will try to explain the image. Okay. So step one is what I have to, because when we do it using this process, okay, when we did it using this process, like we already did it, right, over here. So in this case, what happened? It just like we are reading the image file over here and giving it to explain, right? But now we have to upload the image. It's like after uploading the image, we can't directly use it like this, because earlier we were using the collab environment. Directly we are reading the image data and we are feeding it over here. It is already in the byte form. Okay, it is already in the byte form. But now since we are uploading it to the UI, we have to manually convert into the byte form. All right. So let's try to do it. Here, I have to first reopen the image with PIL. PIL is what? It's a Python library for the image to avoid any format issues. Okay, later on there should not be any data format type of issue should be there, like file format type. Suppose someone else had uploaded some other kind of file, right? So what do? We will just make sure that at the end my model should get the PNG JPG kind of file only. So I'll open image dot open. Okay, what I have to open? I have to open this uploaded file. Fair enough. Dot, in case if it is not in a proper format, so we'll convert it into first RGB, red, green, blue. If it is whatever, suppose in other kind of color scaling is there, it can be converted into red, green, and blue. Then I need to display the image. Display the image. So how can I display the image? st.image. Okay, what I have to display? img. Okay, that is what I need to display. In case if image is not displayed, then there can be a caption. So caption can be uploaded image. All right. Now I can just go ahead for the next part, in which we'll convert it into proper byte array. Okay, so convert the image into proper byte array. Okay, that is a numerical. That means it's a kind of a pixel values, you can say, of the image. Okay, that means image will be converted into proper numerical form. Okay, so here we'll encode as PNG or JPG. All right. So for that, what we do, we'll use over here byte underscore stream is equals to input output dot byte input output. Right. So it will first define the byte stream. That means the object for the byte stream, and thereafter I have to save img.save the image as a PNG form. So this byte stream, okay, can be used to save my image as a PNG data. Okay, PNG form. So that in case if it is any other form of image, that can also be converted into proper PNG form. And then we will have the image bytes. What is my image bytes over here? Image bytes equals to the byte stream, okay, dot get value. This byte stream is having some value, so this value we are reading it into the image bytes. Okay, so from where this value generated, this value is generated from here, right? And then that is stored as the image bytes. Now we'll have a button, and using that button we have to explain the image. So how can we create the button? st.button. Okay, and in this button I'll write describe image. So when image should get described, if this button is clicked. So if someone is clicking this button, then there should be a spinner like we did in last example. Okay, so we want what a spinner is required with st.spinner thinking, right? As it is clicked, there will be a spinner that will run, right? And thereafter we need to do what? We need to define the model, right? So that can be model equals to generative AI, whatever that we have defined in the last time, right? So you can define it here or you can define above as well. It's totally fine. And thereafter I have to do what? I have to define over here response. That means the same thing that we did earlier. Okay, the same thing we have to just copy and paste. That means I'll show you. This is what we did earlier, right? So model is defined. After the model, this is what I'll copy and paste it. All right. Okay, so let's paste this guy. Okay, so here some indentation error may be there. So just to fix that, I am just kind of properly arranging it. Now it is saying image data is showing some yellow underline because now we don't have image data. What we have? We have image bytes. Okay, rest everything is fine. Right. Now once it is done, thereafter I have to show over here st.success button. That will be a green color kind of button, and that will show me what description generated. All right, and then here I can give the st.markdown, and here I can give the things that we want. AI Council says. All right, what it says, whatever the information that is generated, we can use st.write response dot text. All right, so things are done over here, right? And once it is done, I'll save it and I will get back to the interface where my application is running, right? So let's get back to the interface where my application is running. I guess here it is running localhost and something. Let's refresh it. Okay, now I'll just browse file. and I'll just try to upload a image over here. All right. Now it is running. So image is uploaded. This is what we can say. Now we have a describe image option, right? So let's click here. It is thinking. It will take some time. Description is generated. So AI Council says the image shown retro style robot is standing. Okay. So it's working good, right? Now, if I want to make it available for the render, okay, what we want? We want to make it available for the render so that through the cloud service it can be used. What change I have to do? Again, this is repeating, right? So let's see what changes we can do so that it can be, we can make it available for the cloud services, right? So we have to first remove this thing that is your API key, and then we have to update our requirements file, isn't it? So first thing, we'll go to requirements thing, okay, and here we will write all the required dependencies. We required a Streamlit, we required Google generative AI, right? Generative AI, and we required what? PIL also we had used for image, for reading the image, for showing the image, right? So this can be accessed through a library called Pillow, right? So these three things we require as a requirements.txt. And second, I want to keep secure my API key. So this API key I can't mention over here. What I can do, I can just mention a text that we will use as a environmental variable, right? So GenAI API key. All right. So these changes I did. Once these changes are done, what we need to do next? We need to go to our GitHub and create a repository and upload this thing, right? So get back to our GitHub, okay, and here I'll create a repository. In case of repo, new, okay, let's create a repository. What repository shall I give it a name? Image describer. All right. Okay, image describer. I'll create it. Okay, once I create it, I have to upload the existing file. So now I'll upload those two files that I created, which is app.py and requirements.txt. Is it uploaded? Yes, it is uploaded. I'll click on commit changes. All right. Now I will get back to my render. Okay. So where is my render? Let me just close all the things that is already running. Okay. This is running on localhost. I'll close it. Okay. So this is my app.py. Okay. I'll go to render, right? And thereafter we have already there is a app that we have, text generation app. Now I have to delete this app, or let me just try to create one more app. Let's see if it is working or not. So plus create new service. Okay, new web service. Okay, now here I have to add it. So for adding, what I do, I'll get back to my this image describer, copy this thing. Okay, I'll paste it over here. Okay, public repository. It will ask me to connect. So I'll connect it. Name, image describer, Python 3, everything is fine. Okay, here requirement.txt will be installed first. Okay, and here I have to give the startup command. What is a startup command? A startup command is like your Streamlit run app.py, because this is my file, server port, so that is fine. And thereafter I'll choose a free, because these, if I wanted a permanent deployment and I wanted to keep running for longer duration, I can use it. Here I'll get the more power, but here I'll use free. Thereafter, variable. What variable shall I give it over here? The variable that we had used here. Okay, so that means if I'll get back to my coding interface, we had used GenAI API key. Okay, so same variable I will use it over here. Okay, and then the value of this variable will be what? The API key. Where is our API key? Here is our API key. Okay, paste it over here. Okay, now this is done. Now deploy web services. As I clicked on deploy web services, it will take some time to install all the dependencies in my cloud environment. And then my app will start running. So let's wait for a few minutes so that it can just install everything, and then my application will run. To see what it is showing, build successful. Okay, and it is now deploying. It will take few more minutes to deploy and make your application live. So what can you see? You can see your service is live. As your service is live, we can go here and click here, right? So now we get a kind of a web address through which my application can be accessible around the globe. Now I don't need this local host thing. Okay, I can close it. So let's see, our app is running. I'll browse a file, right, and I'll try to upload an image. All right, so let's see how is it behaving. I uploaded the image, and then I want it to describe my image. All right, so I click on describe image. All right, now I'm getting the same error that we got last time, but this time I am assured that you must be knowing why are we getting this error. We are getting this error because over here we have defined API key is equal to Gen API key. Why I define it like this? So that I can access the API from environment variables. If I want to access the API from environment variable, what I need OS. Okay, that can access the environment variables. So I have to write over here API key is equals to OS dot what? Get environment. All right, and then here I have to give the key that we had used. This is a key we had used, isn't it? Right? And then API key is equals to API key. All done. Okay. Now we will commit this change and we will see how is it behaving. So I committed the change. This thing is not working as expected. So close it. Get back to render. Go back to your app. Here I'll delete my image describer because it is not working as it is expected, and I will redeploy image describer. So first let's delete this guy. Okay, and thereafter I will add over here new web service. Here I have to give what? The URL. So I'll take the URL from here, from Git. This particular application I want to deploy, take the URL, paste it over here. Public repository, connect. Okay, it will get connected. Thereafter, I have to start using a start command. Streamlit run this one. Thereafter, I'll take the free service variable name Gen API key. And what is the value of that variable? The API key. This particular API key, who will read? It will, here this guy will read it. os.get environment variable GenAI API key. So it can be easily read. Now I'll click on deploy web services and let's see how is it behaving. It will install all the dependencies first, and thereafter everything is expected to work smoothly. Let's wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Meanwhile, this is getting the dependencies will get installed, and thereafter we'll check how is it working. All right. So once again, my service is live. Let's launch it. And this time again we are getting 502 bad gateway. What to do? Nothing. Just refresh it once again. Okay, and your service will start. Once it will start, thereafter we'll try to check how is it working, isn't it? So we have to wait for a few minutes before it will start. I have to browse the file, go to the location where my files are saved. Here it is saved. Open it up, and then click on what? Describe. Right? Let the image gets happier. Describe image. Now it started working easily. All right. Nice. So whatever the things that present in this image, it is describing it very well. User question, prompt template, OpenAI, SQL, database result, everything. Right. So that means my application is created and we know how can we deploy it over the web, and we will also get the web address using which my application can be accessible anywhere. This kind of application we are going to create for chatbot. As a chatbot, we are next project is about the chatbot. We'll have our own PDF file, we'll have our own document, and based on that document, we'll try to create a chatbot, and that chatbot will deploy on a web server, and thereafter we will also integrate with our own website, right? So just move ahead for the next step after finishing this particular project. All right, all the best.